Well, hello there everyone. You've tuned in uxwbill. I will make this short, sweet, and to the point. If you head on over to eBay right now, with a careful little bit of searching, well-placed searching, you will find that someone in the United States, specifically the state of Texas, is unloading Core 2 Duo equipped personal computers. They're E8400 based, clocked at 3 gigahertz naturally. They include a hard drive of some size. It's a decent size, I don't remember what, and 2 gigabytes of RAM. Really the only bad thing to say about these computers is the fact that they come preloaded with Windows Vista. But who cares about that? Best part of the deal, these things, as of the time this video was made, cost $38 with shipping included. That means you're basically getting the computer for free. Now, if you live outside the United States, you might very well still be able to bid on these things, but I would imagine they will become rather excitingly expensive. And since it seems that the natives are getting restless for another computer-related video here on the uxwbill channel, even though many of them have been around here long enough to know far better than that, I figure we'll go ahead and give them one. Wouldn't want the natives to burn the place down or anything like that. Heaven forbid. So, I actually ordered 2 of these. They were priced at $35. Unfortunately, I was not lucky enough to buy any at that price. And it should also be said that these are sold strictly as is and where is. The seller is making no guarantees on these, unless of course they are damaged in shipment. So if you get something like some bad RAM, a bad motherboard, or a bum hard drive, I think you're pretty much out of luck. Are you at all likely to have any of those problems? I don't know, we're going to find out. Go ahead and open the box here. Oh Lord, it's full of snowman poop. I hate dealing with this stuff, and I don't have a trash can real handy for it. I really hate this stuff. You ever hear people say there ought to be a law? Guess what? There ought to be a law against ever using this stuff. Or if you do use it, I don't know, I get to send Jehovah's Witnesses to your doorstep or your loading dock in the case of a large company such as this, any time of the day and night. When I'm not busy ordering pizzas and taxis to the doorstep at that particular hour. Anybody who's ever dealt with these knows that if you try to put them on the keykeeper's bed, they end up absolutely everywhere. Doesn't matter where you put them. This will probably turn out to be a bad idea, but since I'm getting somewhat impatient here, I'm going to try to dump them in the garbage can. Remember folks, uxwbill is a professional bad example operating on a closed course. Do not attempt this at your home, business, friend's home, or even the home of any of your enemies. Alright, I think we've probably got enough to get these out of here. These are compact systems. They have a micro ATX form factor motherboard in them. An Intel JQ305 or something like that. I don't know. I'll post the exact model number in the description. Right now I'm a little bit distracted, can you tell? But apart from the unfortunate use of packaging material, the unfortunate choice of packaging material, and of course this stuff suffers badly from static cling, so even on a very humid, dark and stormy night such as this, it still sticks to everything in sight. I'll be finding these things in the bottom of the washing machine. So much fun. And of course, despite, well, a minimal effort to keep them from getting all over everything else in the garage, well, they're still managing to do a pretty good job of propagating. They're like rabbits or maybe roaches. Once you have packing peanuts, you never get rid of them. Okay, we'll put that over there where it'll probably fall on the floor and make an even bigger mess that won't sweep up or do anything for love nor money. Alright. Wow. I hope I had my Wheaties today, because so far these are really making me work for it. So let's just unpack this thing and Hopefully it still falls within the purview of the camcorder. Let's see, we're going to need the General Motors box opener again here briefly. Tell you what, if this was a time test, I'd be doing very poorly. I never was very good at those. These do seem, he says, before he turned it on or tested it or anything, these do seem like they'd be a pretty decent system. For the money, I think it's darn hard, if not impossible, to complain. They have a DVD reader and a CD burner, or at least that's what this one has in it. The others might have something different. And I would imagine these probably came out of some sort of a business, some kind of an off-lease situation, because these people have hundreds of these things. And I can't think of any other place they would have gotten them. This one's in pretty good condition, apart from a scratch there on the left-hand side. Now, unfortunately, I'm not sure I have a suitable screwdriver out here. We'll go ahead and pop the cover on this, if I can. I like how they give you one thumb screw, and then the other one's a regular screw. Probably didn't begin life that way. The only brand name these things have on them is Prime Systems. I have no idea who Prime Systems is or was, but given the plethora of these things that are available for sale, they must have been a pretty sizable assembler of computer equipment. Maybe a very large boutique manufacturer. I'm sure Subwood is busily looking that up in Google right now. Alright, what is the model number on this board? Can I tell you? It is a DQ35JOE. That's right, I guess you could have, you could grind this up, filter it, and put it in a coffee cup in the morning, and there's your cup of joe. Wow, that was a bad joke. These things are, as previously mentioned, complete with a hard drive. This one has a Seagate drive in it. Has 2 gigabytes of RAM, and the previously mentioned Core 2 Duo E8400. Now, one thing that's slightly interesting about these, they are pretty much completely legacy-free as far as I can tell. They have solder pads on the board for PS2 keyboard and mouse ports. I thought there was a serial port on these, but apparently there isn't even that, although there might be a header on the board for it. So these are, to a certain extent, weenie modern computers. There is a Windows Vista Business OEM certificate of authenticity on the bottom, but don't count on that if you buy one of these for yourself, because the seller has indicated that some of them may be torn. Mine happens to be legible right now. I have absolutely no intention of running Windows Vista on this system, at least not for any period of time. I figure we'll boot it up and take a look at it. Rather interestingly, there is a DVI-D, that is a digital video output connection, on the back of the motherboard, in addition to the 15-pin analog VGA that we'll be using. So let's just go ahead. See, there's another bit of packing peanut. Let's just go ahead and plug this in to my handy-dandy, no expenses spared eMachine's 15-inch CRT monitor. Despite the source, those monitors actually work pretty well. Alright. We'll go ahead and plug in the power. Plug that in over there. Now I thought that out here in the garage I probably didn't have any input peripherals suitable for weenie modern computers, but it turns out I was wrong, because there is a Dell Optiplex out here that's acting as a security camera DVR, and it does have a set of USB peripherals attached to it, so I just shamelessly went and borrowed those. These systems are surprisingly clean, at least this one is. The only dust I've seen so far is on the side fan. But I've put it off long enough. Let's just go ahead and see what we get here. Move the camcorder down and into position. And we'll zoom in a little bit so that everybody can enjoy the fireworks if there happen to be any. We'll go ahead and turn this on. 3, 2, 1. Headphone users, turn your volume down right about now. Smoke test! Okay, I saw the lights dim a little bit. And the system came to life just momentarily. No fireworks. My monitor's not turned on. So we'll go ahead and turn that on. And then we'll zoom out a little bit. And then we'll watch uxwbill fumble for the power button. And we'll see if this thing actually survived its journey from Texas all the way up here. It's thinking about it. Intel. Probably too late to get into system setup, but we'll see. Windows Vista. Trademark business. It says recovered. I don't know what that means. We'll see if I can get into the system setup utility. Give you an idea of how these things are configured. It is indeed an Intel Core 2 Duo microprocessor, 64-bit capable. Let's see, 1333 megahertz bus speed, 800 megahertz system memory speed. I don't know if you can go any faster than that. These are a DDR2 system, so the memory for them is pretty much dirt cheap right now. Let's see, what does hardware monitoring have to say? Well, processor thermal margin, now I don't think that's an actual temperature reading, but if it is, it's disturbing because it's nearly 70 degrees Celsius, which in Fahrenheit is frippin' hot. They say that 50 degrees Celsius is about the threshold for what you can stand to comfortably touch. I think that's in the low hundreds of degrees Fahrenheit, but like I say, numbers are not my forte, and if I ever start talking about numbers like I know what I'm talking about, someone should probably club me, because invariably I will shoot myself in the foot. Our motherboard temperature looks a lot more reasonable at 24.5 degrees Celsius. Our ICH temperature, which is something I'm not used to seeing, is at 50 degrees Celsius. That's a little bit warm. And then the MCH, or controller hub, which is basically a fancy name for the North Bridge, is at 66.7 degrees Celsius. I don't know where those temperatures are taken. Our voltages look to be right in range. And I would say that so too would appear to be the CPU cooling and chassis cooling fans. Let's see if this thing has any kind of a system event log that might tell us what it's been up to over the years. If it does, I haven't found it yet. Most of these Intel boards do. It's just a matter of figuring out where they decided to hide it. And again, I'm sure someone is screaming at their monitor right now as though that were a sensible thing to do, saying, "That's where it is, you dummy." But I found it. And the only thing it looks like it's ever logged is a message stating that the keyboard was not found all the way back in 2008. And just to make you feel old, that was almost a decade ago relative to when this video was being shot. Alright, so nothing tremendously interesting in there. I didn't see any options for legacy I/O. A lot of people get all over me about that, seemingly not taking a moment to realize that even their fancy pants gamer's motherboard does in fact include most, if not all, of the logic needed for legacy I/O ports like PS2 ports and floppy disk connectors. It's just that the motherboard manufacturer didn't bother to spend the extra 2.5 tenths of a penny to bring it out on the board somewhere. So let's see if it actually manages to boot into Windows Vista here. I figure that it probably will. And then I'll have to figure out where my Ethernet cable went, because I would like to boot this thing over the network, which is, as previously mentioned, a very hardcore thing to do in the garage. At least it's a hardcore, nerdy thing to do. It's taking its own sweet time, but then again, I have to remember this is Windows Vista. And I should probably consider myself exceedingly fortunate that it has not so far placed the monitor into a display mode that it cannot resolve. Doesn't even appear to be flickering too badly on camera, which would tend to suggest that it's in a 60 Hertz vertical scanning refresh rate. So let's see what we've got here. Windows Vista Business. Supposedly these things have a fresh preload on them. I'm surprised that as cheaply as these things are being sold, that they consider that a cost-effective thing to do. Alright, we'll go ahead and type in a username there. And we'll pick a picture. This thing's kind of jumping around a little bit. It's not really as smooth as it ought to be. A desktop background. What should we choose? I kind of like that one, so that's what we'll choose. Ask me later. And it's actually set to Central Time. I'm impressed. Thank you! I haven't even had to enter a product key or activate Windows yet, which is really somewhat surprising to me. Let's see if I can get that a little more centered in frame. It's not quite perfectly aligned with the camera's shutter speed, or at least it wasn't, because I saw a scan line go by there. But it's close enough that it's not flickering madly, which certainly helps. My apologies to anyone out there in the viewing audience who loves Windows Vista or thinks somehow that it was the best release of Microsoft Windows ever made, but I have to disagree with you there. Good freaking riddance. I never saw anything grind on a computer the way Windows Vista could. Not even running Windows 95 on 4 megabytes of RAM. Boy, those were the days. I remember that. Had my compact Contura 486 at 25 megahertz laptop. Upgraded it to Windows 95 when I was in junior high. Took me a whole day. Spent the whole day feeding that machine floppy diskettes. And Windows 95 was certainly an improvement, although I made the mistake of upgrading over a rather creaky installation of Windows 3.1, and the system's reliability just really wasn't what it should have been by any stretch of the imagination. It was especially with regard to printing, it was a little bit on the shaky side because those 16-bit Windows printer drivers did not translate well into at least what was a partially 32-bit world at the time. But that machine ground and ground and ground. It was almost impossible to use. And I remember getting an 8 megabyte memory upgrade to go with the 4 megabytes that were permanently soldered onto that machine's motherboard. Went up to 12 megabytes. And wow, what a heady delight that was back in the day. It was amazing. It was just absolutely incredible how much that boosted the machine's performance. And these days we think nothing. Here it is about 20 odd years later, and we think nothing of throwing gigabytes worth of random access memory into a machine. Look at that. There's a piece of foam packing peanut on the monitor. Well, if there was ever a thing it would stick to. That's what I ought to do. I ought to just mount that monitor on a broom handle and slide it around the garage, and by golly, then I'd have the problem of cleaning up packing peanuts solved, because they'd stick themselves right to the CRT and never have any trouble whatsoever finding them. Well, I think this first one probably works. Well, so while it's sitting there doing its thing, let's go ahead and get the Ethernet cable out here, which is of course stuck here in every possible piece of crap that it could be here in the garage. Got a couple of packaged refrigeration units in parts over there. Let's see if this is actually carrying a valid link. Doesn't appear to be. Alright. Beatings shall continue until equipment starts working properly. Over here and see what's going on. Somewhere along the way I lost my cable. Maybe I've run over it with the station wire one too many times. Nope, it's just not plugged in. By the way, that movement you hear in my voice, well, that's just another thing that your crappy cellular phone camera can't do. It's called a stereo microphone. It's amazing, isn't it? The realism, the depth and breadth that it adds. I sound like a stereo advertisement from the 1950s. I'm not sure we have a reliable link though. It's interesting, there's 2 user accounts on this machine. One says user and one says William. Well, let's just see what user might have on file. Oh, there we go. We have to activate Windows right now. Okay, let's see what it does. They're probably going to make me enter a product key. I don't really care. If Windows doesn't pass activation, forget it. Yeah, I just don't care. Goodbye. Alright, let's go ahead and just start the thing over again. Get back into system setup, and we'll see if the network boot ROM is enabled. The way those Ethernet adapter activity LEDs are blinking on and off does not thrill me. Alright, boot configuration, not in there. See, you always got to figure out where they put it. Okay, there is a setting for the serial port. Well, since it's not present, we'll disable it. This motherboard does have Firewire on board, which is pretty sweet. Apparently you can't turn off the integrated Ethernet hardware, which is interesting. Let's see. No, I know it's not in there. Boot device priority. Let's go ahead and move that around. I'll have it try Ethernet first. Not sure how we actually take a device off of the list. Intel likes to make that somewhat opaque. But we'll save settings and exit setup. And we'll just see what it manages to do, if it manages to do anything. Well, it thinks it established a link. If this actually gets anywhere, I will be quite surprised. Because those LEDs still aren't really behaving the way they're supposed to. They're kind of flicking on and off in a way that would suggest this cable might have been driven over one too many times already. And getting a DHCP lease is taking a very, very long time. So I guess when it comes to profiling the hardware on these machines, I'll do it later, and I'll post it in the video description. Let's go ahead and we'll just try the other one here. See if it works as well as this one did. So I'll go ahead and move this stuff out of the way. And where is the cover for this? I haven't had it apart more than, what now? More than 23 minutes, and I've already lost the top cover. Bravo. I would imagine that since I'm shooting this in high definition, which I'm doing for no particularly good reason at all, that this will probably take a million, billion, trillion years to upload. I don't know why I decided to shoot this in high definition, other than I was probably feeling too lazy to actually change the camcorder settings. Alright, let's go ahead and unravel this one. Listen to that. Listen to the rhythm of the falling rain, telling me just what a fool I've been, because I bought some worthless computers on eBay. That was bad. So it must be raindrops. Certainly decided they want to do things to survive World War III. apparently considering that they were probably already made of fairly stern stuff since they survived years of running Windows Vista. This one's COA is intact as well. Alright, let's plug this one in. Notice how I don't even bother to open the case on it. This one has 2 thumb screws. Boy, that port stack really doesn't feel too reassuring. Now this keyboard and this mouse, they haven't left my sight for any appreciable amount of time at this point. Look at how they were already tangled up like that. It's just amazing how that works. And that's just how sneaky those cables are. Here we go. Plug in the power cord, turn it on, stand on some bubble wrap. I think this one might have a dead Cmos battery. No. So I don't know why the monitor thought it was getting sync. Unless the video port's broken on this one. Luckily there is a PCI Express 16-lane slot on this thing. So it's not the end of the world if it is broken. That one's running its fan a lot harder. Oh, there we go! The firmware has detected that a Cmos battery failure occurred. Press enter to continue. Press enter to continue. And there's something in there that sounds like a lawnmower. I hope it's a fan. If it's the hard drive, that won't be good at all. Alright, this one seemingly refuses to continue past that message and impudently powers itself off. Try again. Some of the things these Intel desktop boards do are just strange. Oh, and here that's been zoomed in on the monitor the whole time. Okay, there it is running the fans at 1,000,000 miles an hour again. I think it's stuck at the same place. Nope, it decided to go ahead and go on through with this. Apparently this one has failed to boot Windows at some point in the past. Who knows who's been playing around with these things. It probably would be an exceptional idea just to wipe the hard drives on these things. Let's see if that... Okay, that one links up. And stays linked up, apparently. Evidently, the other one may have a problem with its onboard Ethernet hardware. Luckily, there are some standalone PCI slots on the board as well, so we have options. And as far as Cmos batteries go, well, I was at Radio Shack again recently. There are still 2 of them open in this area, although one of them has begun their 10-day countdown at this point. And they were selling non-alkaline batteries, anything that wasn't an alkaline battery. You could buy 2 for 1, plus they had like a 90% discount. I took every CR2032 battery they had, and if I'd have really been thinking, I would have gone so far to buy lithium batteries and the CRP2 batteries. Lithium batteries for Macintosh PRAM and CRP2 batteries for PS2 CMOS retention. Alright, we'll try to pick our wallpaper again here. And we'll just see, we'll see if this one manages to activate since its Ethernet hardware seems to be holding a link. And this one too is set up for Central Time. Yep, we have a link there because it's asking me what kind of knot work I have. We'll see if we can actually activate Windows on this one. Behold, Windows Vista in its normal working state. Grind, 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 grind. Probably deploying a virus on my network of some insidious type or another. But I promise I'm going to wrap this video up soon. We just crossed the 30-minute mark. Although when I make a computer video, I've noticed an interesting thing seems to happen. It's almost like I could make a video of doing nothing, but pointing a camcorder at a monitor running screensavers, or my pushing a power button, or something along those lines, and people wouldn't just watch it, they'd think it was the greatest thing ever. Of course, now we have to sit and wait through this stupid performance profiling operation, and I don't even have an interesting story to tell you, like I did with the previous computer. So I guess we'll just have to sit and watch it. But you know, if anybody brought a guitar with them and you know some songs, well, feel free to play them for us. And if we don't know those songs, well, we'll hum a few bars and fake it. The things I say when I get to wool gathering. Just absolutely amazing. But it looks like both of these systems should be winners. And if the other one needs an Ethernet card, that's hardly going to break the bank, because there are literally thousands of cheerful Pacific Rim situated sellers on eBay that will sell you something that will at least pass as a network interface card for Ethernet for very, very little money. I think if you want one that's Realtek based, gigabit capable, and has a boot ROM present on it, that it'll set you back about $9 delivered. The regular ones are even less than that, and I think the price declines further if you don't have to have a gigabit capable card, and heaven knows I certainly don't, because almost everything around here is 10100. I do have a few gigabit things here or there, but none of them are in production use. Not that you wanted to know about that. We're halfway there. It's just like people defending Windows Millennium. I'm sure there will be a few people that just really give it to me with both barrels in the comments area for saying bad things about Windows Vista. I'm actually waiting on some laundry to get done here, which is part of the reason why this video is as long and rambly and drawn out as it happens to be. And I'm trying to get away without editing it. Can you tell? Because if I have to edit it and I have to export it, you know, that just, with high definition stuff, that just gets to be even more of a hassle. So I'm hoping I don't have to do that. This is so incredibly exciting. I haven't really even had any particularly drastic spoonerisms. That's your word for the day when it comes to narrating this video. That would make me have to start it all over again. And even though the wind is whipping outside and the rain is falling, all that good stuff, the lights have had the decency to stay on. Alright, let's see if we can activate Windows Online now. We should be connected. Type a different product key for activation. Okay. Well, you know what? I don't really think that Microsoft would think too highly of my doing that here on video, and I don't want to pause the camcorder, although I just tried to kick it all over the place. So, where's the mouse pointer? There's a mouse pointer. We'll just go ahead and see if this machine will consent to booting over the network. Should just turn this thing off, because I've been about as charitable toward Windows Vista as I could possibly stand to be. Now, that's not to say I've never seen it run well. In fact, one of the systems I have in my possession, there are two Vista boxes left here. One of them is a highfalutin Dell of some kind, an XPS 420 I think it is, and the other one is an AMD Athlon 3200 plus white box, single core thing, thoroughly unexciting, cheap ASUS motherboard in it, but it runs Windows Vista just like Windows Vista was capable of running well, which is frankly amazing. Okay, this has just exceeded my threshold for patience. So we'll turn it back on here. So we'll go into System Setup. Come on, computer. I probably made it mad. See if we can get into System Setup, and we'll change the boot order so that Ethernet is on top. I wonder if I accidentally knocked myself out of setup without saving my changes. Nope. I kind of got click happy there and wondered if maybe it had told me it wasn't actually going to save the changes. So let's see if we can actually boot over the network. There we go. And maybe there we stay. Well, you know what? This video's gone on long enough. If this thing actually makes it past the opening screen to ERPXE, I will tell you all about it in the description, give you some statistics on how many hours of use these systems have seen, all that sort of fun stuff. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I certainly do appreciate your watching my videos. I hope that maybe you even enjoyed this one, even though I basically sat here for 40 minutes and talked about things that most people probably don't even remotely care about. So be nice when you comment. But as always, I do want to hear what you have to say. So thank you again for watching, and certainly do feel free to leave a comment if you happen to have one. I picked the right time to end this video too, because I'm down to 3 minutes on my memory card.